Hi, who just joined us?
This is Jeff Blackford.
Hello, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Sure thing. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. And we are recording for those of you who are on your phones that maybe couldn't see that screen. We want to be able to share this with some of the jurisdictions who maybe weren't able to send someone tonight to the virtual. So anyway, I want to welcome and thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us tonight. I'm sure you're all virtual meeting experts by now, but just in case, a few housekeeping items. Like I said, we are recording tonight's meeting. If you have a comment or question, you can drop those in the chat box, or you can raise your virtual hand across the Zoom toolbar, or you can unmute yourself and ask. We do ask, if possible, to stay muted when you're not speaking, just to help reduce background noise. I will be keeping track of attendees because we have to have a sign-in sheet. So we'll have a virtual sign-in sheet tonight. So if you haven't already, if I think I've got everybody so far, but if you want to drop your name in the chat, you can. If not, I think we're okay for this. We have some people join us as we go. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Amy Dowis, and I'm the regional planner for the Northwest Missouri Regional Council of Governments. With me today are my coworker, Steve Houts, and intern, Marissa Alvarez. We will be the regional council team working on your plan update. Usually I botch her last name, not her first name, so that was new. Okay, so SEMA has contracted with the regional council to facilitate the update to the Holt County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan, and that's why we're all here tonight. The planning process includes 3 public meetings, and today we start off that with the kickoff meeting. 2 committees will be established. One has been established for the update, and that's the planning committee, and that's all of you guys. So planning committee, excuse me. Okay, the planning committee is comprised of at least 1 representative from all the local governments and school districts within Holt County, and that's probably why most of you are here. One thing I want to emphasize before we start this presentation is how we collect in-kind match and why it's important. In the email that was sent out earlier, I included a fillable PDF timesheet and a timesheet instruction page. Anytime you spend talking about the plan with others, filling out surveys or questionnaires, reviewing drafts of the plan, attending meetings, etc., we really need you to record onto a timesheet. If you must travel to attend a meeting, or maybe you need to visit our office for help with a questionnaire or something like that, then you record your mileage as well as your time on a timesheet, and all timesheets get emailed, faxed, mailed, whatever, to me. The more in-kind match we can log, the less out-of-pocket money the county will be responsible to pay in cash match for the plan update. Since most of you are probably joining us from home or the office, if there is a significant other on the couch beside you or a coworker nearby that can see or hear the presentation, have them fill out a timesheet too. Our goal is to collect at least 265 hours of in-kind match. So let's see here. I'm going to pull something up real quick. Okay, so on the screen now, for those of you who can see the screen, is a timesheet, one that I filled out as an example. And there is this place down here on the timesheets for a volunteer title. So basically when you attend these meetings, you're a volunteer. So you put your volunteer name. Your volunteer title, though, is we ask a favor of you. If you're an elected official, we ask that you not put down that as your title. So don't put down county commissioner or clerk, anything that's an elected official. Use something else. If you're a business owner, you can put business owner. If you're a farmer, landowner, etc., that's fine, or even just a resident or citizen works as well. But we ask that you use one of those titles, but not your elected title when you fill out the timesheet. The rules for this plan update don't allow time of elected officials serving in that capacity to be counted for in-kind match. It would be very challenging for us to collect 265 hours of in-kind match if we didn't get creative with our titles on our timesheets. So if anybody has any questions, you can let me know later or type it in the chat again. Another note about timesheets, we ask that you round up. So for example, if our meeting tonight lasts 48 minutes, don't put 48 minutes, just put an hour. If it lasts an hour and 9 minutes, you can put an hour and a half, things like that. So does anybody have any questions about how the timesheets get completed? It's a fillable PDF that will send it out, and every email you get from me going forward will have that attached, just to kind of remind you, make sure you're logging your hours and helping us get that in-kind match. Okay.
Amy,
Yes.
I had a question. So what if we've already done some preliminary work before tonight? Can we go back and do that or just add that?
I would say put it going forward. Use the hours for sure, but I think since this is a kickoff meeting, I'm not sure if we can use anything
Okay.
dated before now. So
what about, there is the planning meeting, I mean, that kind of already happened. My opinion is that he might be able to count that.
So, and he was in attendance. He attended our informational meeting with the commissioners. So, I mean, I'll ask, I can ask tomorrow. I hate to ask, but.
And I've talked with several stakeholders, about this 15 minutes at a time, explaining what the plan is and what their role will be in it, kind of preparing them or getting them ready to get involved. So I guess I'll go back and look at my notes. I wrote down all those occasions.
Okay, sounds good.
Add that time in.
Yeah, that'd be good. Okay, so as long as it happened since the informational meeting we had with you guys, I think we'll try it anyway. Worst they can tell us is it doesn't count, right? Okay, so a couple more things before we get started on the presentation. Steve has created a page on our website that will be dedicated to the Holt County Hazard Mitigation Plan update planning process. It will serve as a one-stop shop for all the documents, forms, links to surveys, questionnaires, and more. I will include the link in the kickoff meeting follow-up recap email that I'll be sending out tomorrow. So we're trying to make things easier to access for everyone, your residents, everybody. So this is just we're gonna give it a try. Maybe it doesn't work, but hopefully it will help with accessibility for everyone. So last thing, if you're a jurisdiction or school and haven't returned your signed MOU to me, please do that ASAP. This is how we know what jurisdictions and schools are planned participants. And if you haven't received an MOU from me, please let me know and I will resend it. But I think I've sent them out a couple of times now. Does anybody have any questions on timesheets? I did have a question in the chat about when you turn timesheets in. It's really up to you, at least monthly. Marcus will be using his timesheet probably more than most people. So if he wants to do a month at a time and just get it to me by, say, the 15th of each month, that's great. If you're not doing as much, you can just send me a timesheet each time you document hours or miles. Either one is fine. We just have to keep them all on our server and in case we need them, in case SEMA asks for them. So it's really whatever's easiest for you. But I do suggest that you save that timesheet so you can access it easier because you will use it several times, hopefully throughout the next few months. All right. If there aren't any more questions about timesheets or any of this other stuff, then we're going to get going with our slideshow. If I can find it. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so what are you guys seeing now, Marissa?
I see your PowerPoint, but it is not in present mode.
Okay.
Okay, you're good.
Okay, so we'll get going through this. The agenda for tonight. This is kind of a quick rundown of the items we'll be discussing. The planning purpose, grant programs linked to approved hazard mitigation plans, the multi-jurisdictional approach to hazard mitigation, participation requirements, public involvement, data collection questionnaires, discussion of hazards, critical facility inventory, and next steps in the planning process. And now I'm going to turn it over to Marissa.
All right, hello. So our first slide is what is mitigation and why is it important? Well, the term mitigation is defined as any sustainable action that reduces or eliminates long-term risk to people and property from future disasters. So mitigation planning breaks the cycle of disaster damage, reconstruction, and then repeated damage again. We will define what these hazards are later, but for now, let's consider a tornado's impact on the county. It cuts a half-mile of destruction across the county from the western to eastern boundary. The potential damage could include roads, bridges, homes, outbuildings, water and sewer infrastructure, loss of life, etc. When we mitigate, we put together a plan that will help us lessen the impact. We attempt to build stronger buildings by considering new and improved building codes. We limit new development in hazard-prone areas, and we improve warning systems so that people are not out during severe weather. So like I said, hazard mitigation plans, with those, we attempt to eliminate the impact. Hazard mitigation planning is a tool that brings the jurisdiction together across multiple disciplines to help plan for a natural disaster. All right, next. Okay, so the Disaster Act of 2000 requires that in order for your jurisdiction to be eligible for FEMA mitigation funds, local governments are required to adopt a hazard mitigation plan. And this plan must be adopted or must be updated every 5 years. Amy, you're not on the right slide if you want to go over to. And yep, you're good there. All right, so we are now updating the Holt County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan, which was previously approved in March of 2017. The current plan expires in March of 2022, so that'll be coming up on us fairly soon. The coordination of this plan is, this plan update is paid in part. Okay. If everyone can please mute themselves, we've got some background noises that's making it hard for people to understand me. All right, I'll start from the beginning-ish. So the coordination of this plan update is paid in part by a grant from the Federal Emergency Management Agency because they recognize the value of having a well-prepared hazard mitigation plan. All right, next slide. Okay, so as you can see, Holt County is no stranger to disasters. Since 1965, there have been a total of 22 major disaster declarations that have included the county. On screen now are a list of those disaster declarations for the county. So a presidential major disaster declarations, those are implemented when the president believes a natural hazard has caused damage to such a severity that it is beyond the combined capabilities of state and local governments. So they cannot respond. A major disaster declaration provides a wide range of federal assistance programs for individuals and for public infrastructure. So they're very important. All right. So I will be going over the grants that are linked to approved FEMA mitigation plans. And so an approved hazard mitigation plan opens up multiple grant opportunities for your jurisdiction. These grants are the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Program, previously the Pre-Disaster Mitigation Program, and then the Flood Mitigation Assistance Program. So I'll be going in depth on both of those. So the first one is the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. FEMA's Hazard Mitigation Grant Program provides funding to state and local governments so they can rebuild in a way that reduces or mitigates future disaster losses in their communities. This grant funding is available after a presidentially declared disaster. In this program, homeowners and businesses unfortunately cannot apply for the grant. However, local communities may apply for funding on their behalf. And as it states in the second point, 20% of enhanced plan states can get the first 20% of the billion of estimated total amounts of disaster assistance. Missouri does have an enhanced state hazard mitigation plan. Therefore, we are eligible for that. And like I was saying earlier too, the approved local mitigation plan is required in order to get this grant. All right, next. Okay, so the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities grant, also called BRIC, is a new FEMA pre-disaster hazard mitigation program that has replaced the existing pre-disaster mitigation program. BRIC will support states and local communities as they undertake hazard mitigation projects that reduce the risks they face from disasters and natural hazards. The BRIC program's guiding principles are supporting communities through capability and capacity building, encouraging and enabling innovation, promoting partnerships, enabling large projects, maintaining flexibility, and providing consistency. So as you can see, the BRIC grant for fiscal year 2020 has already closed. They will be awarding those in the summer. And then shortly after that, they will be releasing the application due dates for the fiscal year of 2021. And again, this grant, you have to have a local mitigation plan approved by FEMA in order to apply for this. So lastly, we have the Flood Mitigation Assistance Program. So this is a competitive grant program that provides funding to states and local communities. Funds from this grant can be used for projects that reduce or eliminate the risk of repetitive flood damage to buildings insured by the National Flood Insurance Program. So FEMA chooses recipients based on the applicant's ranking of the project and the ability and cost effectiveness of that project as well. And also this one has already closed for the year, but they will be announcing the fiscal year 2021 applications hopefully soon. And again, that this program or this grant, you do need a local mitigation plan approved. So no hazard mitigation assistance grants have been awarded to Holt County. However, $25,136,493.13 in public assistance grants have been awarded to the county by FEMA. So public assistance grants, also called PA grants, are aid to the state and local governments and certain private nonprofit organizations for emergency work and the repair or replacement of disaster damaged facilities. So you guys have been impacted by disasters before, and you have used grants to come back from that. So now I'll be going over the 9 tasks we need to complete in order to update the plan. There are 9 steps total. The tasks in orange will be completed or underway by the end of this meeting. And then in later meetings, we will work to complete the tasks in white. Did anyone have a question just now?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if you can repeat that number for me, the amount. Oh,
of the PA grants?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be $25,136,000 and then $493.13.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so like I said, the task in orange, we will be either, it'll be either be completed or underway by the end of this meeting. And then the tasks in white, we will complete during later meetings. So task 1 of the plan update is to determine the planning area. These are the official participants within Holt County that will be included in the hazard mitigation plan. In the 2017 Holt County Hazard Mitigation Plan update, the communities of Bigelow, Corning, and Fortescue did not meet the participating requirements to be included in the plan. As of right now, there's still availability for those jurisdictions to participate again. So on screen, we have all the jurisdictions that we will be including unless they do not meet participation requirements. And it should be noted that the jurisdiction titles are based off the 2019 American Community Survey data from the Census Bureau. So if you do not believe that your jurisdiction's title is correct, then please let us know and we can change that for you. So task 2 of the plan update is to build a hazard mitigation planning committee. So here are some examples of who can be included in the planning team. During the initial meeting we had with everyone, we provided the county with a list of members of the committee from the 2017 plan update. For the kickoff meeting, we invited representatives from each jurisdiction. In later meetings, we will also invite the stakeholders within the community to participate. So on screen now, you have your jurisdiction representatives. Those can be your emergency responders, county clerks, city clerks, elected officials, etc. Then your stakeholders will be your business partners, private nonprofits, special districts, and so on. So right on screen now is the new Hazard Mitigation Planning Committee for the 2022 plan update. And not every jurisdiction has returned their MOUs, and we need those in order to establish that committee. So if you can, please fill those out and send those to us as soon as you can. And again, if you haven't, or if you can't find the MOU or you don't think it was sent to you, just let us know and we can send you another one. So what are the benefits of participating in a multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan? Well, participating in a hazard mitigation plan has multiple benefits that can affect not only the local communities, but it can also assist with economic development, land use planning, and as well as improve public works infrastructure and emergency management. On top of that, hazard mitigation plans helps to enable a comprehensive approach to mitigating hazards that affects a wide variety of jurisdictions in your county. It also helps to share costs and resources, and it also avoids duplication of efforts of mitigation. And again, it also improves coordination and communication among the communities in your county, and it also helps impose an external framework and schedule on processes. Okay, so the requirements for each participating jurisdiction, we've talked about these before. These are the past requirements that we needed. We need a signed MOU from each jurisdiction. We also request that each community designates a representative to serve on the Holt County Hazard Mitigation Planning Committee. These communities will also provide data for and assist in the development of the updated risk assessment, and they will provide data to describe current capabilities within their jurisdictions. You'll be giving this information through the data questionnaire, and we will get more into that later. Communities will also develop and update mitigation actions, at least one. That will be done in a later meeting. And then representatives and communities will also help to inform the public, local officials, and other interested parties about the planning process and provide opportunities for them to comment on the plan. And then lastly, the jurisdictions will formally adopt the mitigation plan. So, all right, let's go back a slide. So Holt County is committed to providing local match for the preparation of the multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan update. And Amy talked about this a little bit before, but I'll just hit on it again. The anticipated total match share for the plan is $6,500. It is anticipated that Holt County will provide this amount in-kind match. As most of the plan update will be conducted remotely, the county emergency manager has agreed to assist in the hazard mitigation planning committee to help gather in-kind match. Okay. So what happens if my jurisdiction chooses not to participate in the plan? Well, jurisdictions who choose not to participate in the plan update will not be eligible applicants for any FEMA hazard mitigation assistance grants. This includes the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, the BRIC program, and the Flood Mitigation Assistance Program, which I covered before. So public involvement requirements. So this will be task 3 of the update plan, and that is to create an outreach strategy to gather data from the public. We will be meeting this task requirement by using a public survey through Google Forms. And the public survey will be available on the Regional Council website, as well as the Regional Council Facebook page. So you can get those from there. All right, next.
Did you talk about the plan draft?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry, my bad. The plan draft will also be available through the Regional Council website, so you can access it there. We'll have a spot for you to find that.
And does the planning committee have any other ideas or ways to inform the public and get public engagement? You can unmute yourselves and share them, or you can type them in the chat.
All right, I'll continue on. And then if you guys have any ideas, just feel free to put them in the chat. All right, so task 4 and 5 of the plan update go hand in hand and includes reviewing community capabilities and conducting the risk assessment. To do this, we must collect information about the jurisdiction through a data questionnaire. This questionnaire is due back to Amy by Tuesday, April 13th of 2021. So each community has a unique set of capabilities, including authorities, policies, programs, staff, funding, and other resources available to accomplish mitigation. By reviewing existing capabilities, the planning team can identify capabilities that currently reduce disaster losses or could be used to reduce disaster losses in the future. So this is useful for multi-jurisdictional plans where local capabilities varies widely across the region. So please take a few minutes to review the data questionnaire that was emailed to you earlier today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to unmute or type your questions in the chat. We have also put the data questionnaire in the chat in the Zoom, so you can download it from here.
So both of those questionnaires have been put in the chat. There's one for schools, one for local governments. This is a great time to get some questions answered by the experts, and that would be Steve probably first off. But if there's no questions, then we're going to keep going, I think.
Okay, so am I in control? Can you see my intent slide? Or
No,
not?
we cannot.
We cannot. Okay.
Oh, now we do.
All right. There we go. So I, as part of my job here at the Regional Council of Governments, work on the risk assessment portion of updating the hazard mitigation plans. And the intent of this section of the plan is to kind of answer the what and the where, to try to really understand what are the hazards that potentially will impact your communities, and which ones are the ones that are most likely to be impacted. So these are the parts that I will be, with Amy and Marissa's help, be putting into your hazard mitigation plan. Each hazard has to have a description, and the rest of these items that are shown here on the slide have to go in there, figure out, look at how many times they've occurred and the probability that they will occur in the future. We look at your assets that you have in your communities, and we get a lot of that information from your questionnaires. So again, can't emphasize enough how important it is for you to fill out those questionnaires and get them back to us so we can include them as we put this plan together. This last one, the problem statement, it's a tough one to come up with, but it's an important one in that it helps guide when you plan your actions of what you are going to plan to do to try to lessen the impacts of any natural disasters that occur. The state plan has listed these as the naturally occurring disasters that affect the state. And so we start with those and we decide what we're going to include in your plan. So looking over from the last plan, we did have flooding and plan to include that along with levee failure. Those and dam failure are all closely related. Earthquakes will be included. The risk is low, but the risk is there. At this time, we don't know of any sinkholes problems in Holt County. If you are aware of any that we would need to include that in the plan, we can change that. Drought has been an important part of the plan. Extreme temperature was known as heat wave in the previous plan, and so that they've renamed that to extreme temperature, which also includes the very cold temperatures as well. Severe thunderstorms along with high winds, hail and lightning are included. Severe winter weather, tornadoes, and the last category is wildfires. Hopefully we didn't have any fires out there today with the way the wind was blowing. If there's any changes that you see needed to those, please let us know, and we can always adjust the hazards that we include in the plan. The first risk that we'll look at this evening is the flooding. And unfortunately, Holt County has seen way too much of that in the last decade. Starting off here with a look at Craig back in March of last year. There have been 8 declared presidential disasters for Holt County since 1990, with over $52 million paid out in crop insurance for those. And of course, all kinds of money paid out to try to fix damage that was done from levee failure, which is very closely related to flooding in Holt County. As you can see there on the slide, if you're with us online, there's been 106 public assistance projects for the 2011 event, which totaled $2,424,514. And for this latest go around in 2019, we have 75 FEMA projects of over $13,458,197. Our agency has been involved in a lot of those projects so far, and they're not completed yet, as you all know. Dam failure is also considered as part of the plan. There's 2 agencies that look over the dams in the state. There's the Department of Natural Resources, and then the Army Corps of Engineers keeps a national inventory. We have 37 listed structures in the state. 7 of those have been classified as high hazard risk dams. That rating comes from the Corps of Engineers. They consider it a high hazard if, in their estimation, there's a possibility of a loss of life if there's a catastrophic failure of that dam. 3 of the dams have the Class 1 rating from the state of Missouri. Those are based on the dwellings that could be affected in case of a failure, 10 or more dwellings being damaged in that situation. So the dams that are of high hazard are shown on this graphic here, represented by the red triangle. The ones that I've underlined in red, the Idecker Dam, the Tenny Hall Dam, and the Earl Limp, Dam are the ones that are considered the Category 1 high hazard structures, and are the ones that probably pose the greatest risk to your county. Craig is possibly, and of course I-29 is down from the Idecker Dam. And these 2 dams here, both are on tributaries that flow down towards Mound City. So if one or both of those would happen to fail, they could release water that would head towards Mound City. So those are the ones that we'll probably be focusing the most emphasis on as we do this risk assessment. Next risk is the earthquake risk, which is a minimal risk for Holt County. The area of activity along the fault in southeast Missouri is the greatest potential of large earthquakes. The Nemaha fault line that kind of goes through southern Nebraska and into Kansas could possibly cause minor earthquakes, but it's not considered to be a very large risk for your county. More of an economic impact on your county is the risk of drought. And that's mainly because of the large agricultural driver on the economy that agriculture has. And I've listed some of the impacts to the economics there, besides the crop losses for crops and livestock. There's, a decreased effect on land prices, can be unemployment, you can lose population, and then the towns can suffer water supply costs if they can't keep water supplied to their citizens. And of course, there's social and economic risks to drought as well. Here is a graphic from the last plan showing kind of the cycles of drought for the county. The worst drought in that period was in the 2012 to 2013 era, where there was almost getting close to $10 million worth of crop insurance paid out for the damage to the drought from drought. Extreme temperatures is another possibility to affect the county. Last 20 years, there's been 11 documented periods of excessive heat and only one period of extreme cold temperatures. I think it has to last at least 5 days in a row, consecutive days, for them to consider it an event. The population that we worry about here mostly are the elderly and the very young are most severely affected by extreme temperatures. About 25% of Holt County's population is 65 years or older, and 181 individuals were over the age of 85, according to the last census data we had. Only about 5% of the population is under 5 years of age. There were, $500,000 paid out in crop losses for heat and cold weather in the last plan documentation. The next hazard we're going to discuss tonight is the severe thunderstorms, which also include hail and high winds. We've had 11 such declarations for that kind of storm. We had about an average of 4.5 hailstorms, damaging hailstorms per year in Holt County. So there's certainly a good possibility that you're going to have a hailstorm every year affect at least some part of the county. Over almost 1.5 thunderstorms with high wind a year during that 10-year period that we kept track of for the last plan. Preliminary estimates there were property damage of 100,000 from these storms and crop damage of over 600,000. Property damages are always probably way underestimated on these because we just don't have a very good method of tracking and getting that information. Again, put in a plug for those questionnaires. If your school was damaged by hail or winds or something, please put that in your report that you send it to us, as long as your cities and towns, if you'd let us know of any damage that you're aware of in the last 5 years since the update. Severe winter weather. We've had 4 presidential declarations for that. Those usually happen, of course, when there's ice storms and you have a lot of power loss and that type of thing. We had 37 events that we counted that occurred according to the National Weather Center, and almost $15 million in damages to property during that time. Again, ice is a big damager to the county. Next, do you have a question? The next risk I have is tornadoes. Only 2 of the presidential declarations included tornadoes. We've had 8 reports of tornadoes, documented reports of tornadoes over the years for Holt County. Fortunately, most of those tornadoes have been very minor for tornadoes. Of course, they still can do damage if you're at the 0 or 1 level. Property damage of $284,000 from those storms that we were aware of. I guess I could say one of the things that sometimes counties use, the grants that Marissa was talking about earlier, is to build safe rooms. And that's something that maybe you could think about either for your school or for your community. Sometimes you can do projects where they're kind of a dual purpose. And, I know there's some gyms been built that they're also serve as a safe room or for the school, and the school gets some money to help do that. I know I've noticed, I don't know if I've seen it in Missouri, but in Iowa, I've seen some, even at parks and stuff where people gather for festivals and stuff like that, they can get some federal money to help build a, community structure, so that if you have a bunch of people in an event or something and a storm comes up, you've got some place where they can shelter, or for those people that don't, or in mobile homes that don't have a good place to go in the case of a tornado, provide some shelter. The last hazard I'll talk about tonight is wildfire. Don't think of that as being a threat for the county. Usually you think of that being something for California or the western states, but we do have the last plan listing 156 events, that were documented by the local fire departments, and they had estimated that they burned over 1,400 acres. Not very much of the population, the residences, are in the area that's considered the wildlife urban interface. That's where it's areas that have been designated homes that are built very much in pretty much a wildlife area. So that's not too much of concern for the county, but we will look at that again this year. So risk assessment has to do, it's kind of a balancing act. You've got to decide what are those risks, and is the prize good enough? Well, how much effort should we put into this mitigation? And so that's something that we need your input into as we do this. So again, this is another chance for you to ask me any questions at this time. I will be working. I've already started on the risk assessment update, getting data that I can. We'll have a rough draft of that risk assessment for you to look at by our next meeting time. But to make that complete, we do need your input. So get those questionnaires filled out and turned in, and I'll stop talking and give you a chance to type in questions or unmute yourself and ask them right now if you want to.
This is Amy. Just a real quick clarification. Jerry says we are not involved with any levee projects from this flood, the most recent flood. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry if I misled on that, but I guess we are involved in some projects from the flood damage. Jerry, of course, is the expert on that, not on the levees, but maybe one on some road repair or something like that. I know there were a lot of ditches that are going to be cleaned out, but those might not all be with FEMA. That might be with some other federal agencies.
Yeah, we're working with FEMA and NRCS on roads and ditch clean out and things like that. So this time around anyway.
Okay, thanks.
Steve, we've got a question in the chat.
Okay. Well, if I can get my chat to show up here.
Here,
Okay.
I can read it for you.
Marcus wants to know if we review the current plans assessment and add any new hazards?
That's what we're probably starting to think about tonight. As far as the list, I think we are unable to add any hazards that the state doesn't include in their plan. It's just we decide whether to build off of theirs. So I don't know if you had anything in specifics or not, any other hazards, but we're certainly reviewing them all right now as this plan goes along, and we'll, contemplate or consider any other things that you have input on.
Marcus, do you have another question? I saw you raised your hand. Oh,
I was just going to clarify that a little bit. So the plan from 2017 has a list of assessed hazards, correct? And I guess my question was, do we just review that and build upon that? We're not starting from scratch and developing all of these, this list of assessed hazards, are we? I mean, if it's already been built, I guess I'm just trying to clearly understand where we need to go from here.
Yes, we build on what is there. What they want us to do is, as far as, I guess, to see if there's been any change in like the occurrence since the last plan, like has there been more flooding? Has the probability of wildfires increased since the last plan? So like the last plan, probably, I'm trying to remember, ended like when I go on and look at what the National Weather Service has, I'll just look at like the last 5 years and add that to that. I'll probably look at a more recent 10-year window. We will update like the valuations of buildings and so forth, and look and see if there's been any new development anywhere in the county that, is a new possible something that could be threatened by flooding or something like that. Usually there's not too much more to add to that. So yeah, we really do, we'll just be building on what is there before, adding to it, just refreshing it, I guess, so to speak. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I just wanted the team to not have to do a lot of extensive work,
Right.
So reviewing that and then just tweaking it a little bit. If one of those assessed hazards, we know of something that happened, maybe a loss of property, loss of life, injury, whatever the case, we just need to let you all know, and then you can put that in.
Right. Yeah. Anything especially anything that's happened the last 5 years, since the plan has been updated. And again, the risk assessment its purpose is to guide what you come up with, those mitigation actions. That's where the meat of the plan should be. It's not in all this data. That's just to help you make the decision. How can we best, where's the danger and how can we lessen it?
and once the risk assessment draft is done, then we submit that to the planning committee and they can review it and return thoughts, comments, changes and stuff like that.
Correct.
Okay, is there any other questions for Steve on the risk assessment? Uh-oh.
I stopped sharing. Is that okay? Are you ready to take it back over, Amy?
Sure.
Or I can control it if you need me to.
Okay, so is it on your screens?
Yes.
No? Yes? Okay. Let me get down to where I need to be.
Yep, right there.
Okay.
And then can you click present, please? Perfect. It's still not. Okay, there we go. Awesome. All right. So critical facilities. So part of the risk assessment is identifying the critical facilities within your jurisdiction. Critical facilities are essential to the operation of your community, and if disrupted, they may cause some serious problems. So these facilities are critical in the response and recovery from a disaster. There are 3 types of these, and we are looking to gather information on. And these are the essential facilities, the high potential loss facilities, and transportation and lifeline facilities. So I'll go in depth right here. All right, so this next slide provides some examples of each type of critical facility. First, we have the essential one, and these are buildings that, if damaged, would have a serious negative impact on your community's ability to respond and recover from a disaster. So that's hospitals, police stations, fire stations, and your EOCs. And then next we have your high potential loss facilities, which are buildings that, if damaged, would have a high loss and impact on your community. So these are power plants, dams and levees, military installations, hazardous sites, school shelters. So anywhere that if it got hit by a hazard, it would cause a very big loss in your community. And then lastly, we have transportation and lifeline facilities. And these are assets that are critical for transportation and the provision of utilities. So these are your highways, your bridges, your tunnels, roads and railroads and all that, as well as your water treatment facilities, your natural gas facilities, and then your oil facilities and pipelines and your communications facilities. So when documenting your community's critical facilities in your data questionnaire, please be cognizant of what location these buildings or assets are in, as that may greatly increase their risk to a hazard. For example, if a facility is in a floodplain, it may be more susceptible to river flooding than a building that is not. Lastly, if there are any other sources of GIS-based data that can provide information on these critical facilities, please share that information with us, as it will greatly help us complete the risk assessment.
Okay. Next steps in the planning process. So we've asked for the jurisdictions to return their data collection questionnaires to me by Tuesday, April 13th. You can send those via email, fax, or in the mail, and all that information is on the questionnaires. Remember, there's a questionnaire for the schools that's different than the local government questionnaire. We will have a second planning meeting on Monday, May 24th at 7 p.m. During that meeting, we will go over risk assessment results, critical facility analysis results. We will review and update mitigation goals and begin status updates for previous mitigation actions. Then the last meeting, third and final planning meeting, Monday, July 26th at 5 p.m. At that meeting, we will go over the status of the previous mitigation actions. We will brainstorm and discuss potential new mitigation actions. Mitigation action implementation plans for continuing and new actions will be worked on. And then we will discuss planned maintenance. So with that is the end of our presentation tonight. We want to give you another chance to ask questions. So you can type questions in the chat, you can unmute, discuss, ask questions, whatever. We're going to stay here for a while and leave this where you can do that. But we want to thank you for joining us tonight. And apologize for any of our technical oops that we may have had along the way. Of course, we want to make sure you all complete a timesheet. We're going to hammer that good at each time we talk to you all. So if you need me to email you another timesheet or another example sheet, I can do that. But I think everybody has those from earlier today. Otherwise, let us know if you have any questions.